Greetings, brothers and sisters. This is just a big day. And I can't wait to start making these videos. So I was going to lead with this. This is Brian Stelter, the disgraced, failed, canceled CNN host who was tapped to be a part of the World Economic Forum as a host. And I just watched the beginning, and it's epic. World Economic Forum and Brian Stelter is, just that idea is epic. And so this is a bombshell, a huge thing I'm looking forward to covering. But one of my viewers sent me this. This is a commercial entitled Mean John Fetterman. Fetterman Smash. Mean John. Fetterman for Senate. And Fetterman Smash, right? And it is so horrible. This is a commercial that's on his own YouTube channel. It's based in two commercials of famous Pittsburgh Steelers. You might remember this commercial from the 70s, 1979, the 80s. There's a player named Mean Joe Green. Now Fetterman's from Pennsylvania. And so he's walking into the locker room. He's limping into the locker room.
Mr. Green? Mr. Green?
Yeah.
You need any help?
And this, kid somehow bypasses security and is following Mean Joe Green into the tunnel with the Coke. And later, they remade the same commercial with Troy Polamalu, who is also a Pittsburgh Steeler from Pennsylvania.
Mr. Polamalu? Mr. Polamalu?
Yeah.
You need any help?
I don't believe Troy is considered mean. But so that's what they're basing this on, right? And they decided this was a good idea to bring in Pennsylvania voters. And this is the comedy stylings of one John Fetterman Smash.
Mr. Fetterman.
Look.
Mr. Fetterman,
Yeah.
you need any help?
I'm running for the U.S. Senate, kid. I need all the help I can get.
He's running for the Senate. This was supposed to bring in votes. He's wearing a Polamalu shirt.
You're running for Senate?
Sure.
Where's your suit? And your flag pin? And your hair?
But right here, he's got back hair right here, kid. He's got tons of back hair sticking out right here. Some Igor-looking back hair. Look at this back hair, kid. Don't say he doesn't have any hair. He doesn't have hair up here, but he's got this cool goatee. He's got the back here. Come on, kid.
Oh, hey, kid.
I just want you to know I'd vote for you.
You on crack? Does this kid have a crack problem, Fetterman?
Hey, thanks, kid.
He's got the back hair working in the hump.
You want a drink?
Nah, no.
Really, you can have it.
It's a Fetterman. It's not Coke. It's Fetterman's got his own cola, apparently. He wants to...
Okay. Thanks.
He's got this weird cryptic tattoos on his arm. Too bad they were in instructions of what he needs to say at debates.
See you around.
You drank his Coke and you turn around. He slugged down your Coke and now you're leaving.
Hey, kid.
Hey, kid.
Catch.
Wow, thanks, Mayor John.
Look, he's just got a Fetterman shirt in his size. He's giving him some of his own merch. This smile is the best. Look at the smile. There you go. Give him that smile, Big John Fetterman. Fetterman for Pennsylvania Senate, right? So this was used. This was something they thought was quality, right? They brought in a national team for this guy. Remember when he did the debate, they were telling Jojo Magoo that somehow, even after the debate, they didn't lose any points. And, he said, we're okay in Pennsylvania. This was a big race in Pennsylvania. And Dr. Oz, this shows you how bad of a candidate Dr. Oz was and how, big Trump had messed everything up, that they elected this lurchin MNFer, right? But I found the actual audio. That was the they dubbed in that audio. But here's the actual audio because they couldn't get Fetterman to act, So this is Fetterman smash. Fetterman hurt himself by smashing. Fetterman tired. Hey, Fetterman. Hey, Mr. Fetterman. Mr. Fetterman. Hey, Mr. Fetterman. Yeah, Fetterman smash. Get away, kid. Hey, what are you doing? You look a lot like Lurch. Hey, shut up, kid. Fetterman smash. The townspeople are coming. They're getting pitchforks. They're getting torches. They're coming to get you. They're after you. Fetterman smash. Fetterman smash, all of them. Yeah, they're coming. They're coming right now. Let them come. Do you want some adrenochrome? Fetterman. Yes, Fetterman want adrenochrome. Yeah, take my adrenochrome. Fetterman smash. Fetterman smash. Thanks, kid. Yeah, adrenochrome. Go. See you, Mr. Fetterman. Adrenochrome good. Adrenochrome. Hey, kid. Hey, do my laundry for me. There you go. All right. Hey, this shirt smells like farts and cigars. Yeah, Fetterman like adrenochrome. Fetterman smash. So this is his reel. Like I said, they brought in a national team for this guy. And, it was an important race. And it was a sort of, one of the bigger races in a swing state. And it would validate his winning of his, the Biden winning Pennsylvania. And this was one of the other commercials here that he posted.
To be honest, doing that debate wasn't exactly easy.
So he said, to be honesty. But he said, to be honest. Listen, he says, to be honesty.
To be honest, doing that debate wasn't exactly easy. Knew it wasn't going to be easy after, having a stroke after 5 months.
Excuses. Fetterman had stroke. Fetterman did debate. Fetterman smash.
In fact,
somebody just wrote, someone just yelled out, we still love you. Right? You loves Fetterman smash.
And in fact, I don't think that's ever been done before in American political history before, actually.
How many times are you going to say before, actually?
After that stroke, I got knocked down, but I got back up.
Yeah, he got knocked down. But he got back up. He gets back up. He gets knocked down, he gets back up. Woo!
Woo! And I'm going to fight for everyone in Pennsylvania, whoever got knocked down, that never had to get back up.
Yeah, that's what. But if you didn't get back up or you didn't get knocked down, he's not going to fight for you. If you'd never got knocked down, he's not going to fight for you. And if you didn't get back up, you quitter, like he did, like Fetterman smash, he's not going to fight for you.
Woo! And let me tell you something else. What also something remarkable happened after that debate is that we've raised over more than $2 million.
Like that debate was the worst performance, if you guys remember. It was just, worse than any JoJo Magoo performance. This is the worst performance I've seen in a debate other than people just passing out or something, right? It was even worse because he was inarticulate. He couldn't express himself. It was horrible, right? And, even in all that, they gave him $2 million. He lost no support. It was just atrocious. There's no way that you would look at this guy and say, hey, he should be a senator. But he ended up not being hurt by that horrible performance and all the other ones, looking like, Lurch or any number of these various Young Frankenstein. I mean, there's all these references to monsters, right? Like this guy looks like he's some sort of a ogre, Shrek, like, and on top of it, he's not like he's brilliant or articulate or anything, right? I mean, his appearance is bad and his stage manner and just everything. And he still beat Dr. Oz. Like, that shows you how bad a candidate Dr. Oz is and how effed up the Pennsylvania voters are, that they thought this guy was, a quality candidate.
Last night Oz said that, and I want to get this right, quote, local political leaders should decide whether a woman should be able to get an abortion. Basically, kind of like Doug Mastriano.
Okay, and this whole thing about him where he was talking about how it was tough for him to do the debate, and no one's ever done that before after a stroke. He had to do it, right? Fetterman had to do it because if he couldn't perform in a debate, that means he couldn't become senator. Like, he's not well enough to be in a debate. And so he made it sound like he did something courageous. They forced him to do it, and he did it horribly. And it didn't matter. Like, the debate meant nothing. Debates used to mean something because you could see the two candidates express their ideas, but now everything's so polarized that there's no change, right? It doesn't matter how bad the candidate is, doesn't matter. I mean, this is the Trump saying he could choose someone in Fifth Avenue. People are so locked into their stances, they won't even change their opinions because of the animosity between the Democrats and the Republicans. And so that's, ladies and gentlemen, this is Fetterman Smash, your senator from Pennsylvania. Okay, so this is disgrace-failed CNN host Brian Stelter from a show called The Reliable Sources, where he was the reliable source, CNN was a reliable source, and their big claim to fame was about how so-called conspiracy theorists were ruining the world. And it worked out so well for them, they canceled it. There's a little bit to the beginning that they don't show here. One of my viewers sent it to me, so let me show you that part first, because, he's just so weird and creepy. And then we'll get into this here.
How are you?
That was February.
Ryan, I think they're ready for it.
It was my last trip.
That's our cue, I believe. We're getting counted down.
Brian.
Thank you.
Okay, so he is at the World Economic Forum.
The clear and present danger of disinformation.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
The clear and present danger of disinformation is our conversation here this afternoon.
The clear and present danger of people expressing their own opinions or their own research that goes away from the official story. You're dangerous. It's clear and present danger.
Follows a session just now about disrupting distrust. And of course, those are connected. So I hope that's where we can start.
Disrupting distrust. And what that means is people don't trust the official story. The World Economic Forum, the powers that be, proven liars. We don't trust them. And they want to disrupt that trust. Disrupt is a big, word. Be a disruptor. And you can't be a disruptor if you're a part of the World Economic Forum. You're not a disruptor. You're a part of the club, right? You're a part of the thing that has to be disrupted.
I'm Brian Stelter, formerly of CNN, now a fellow at Harvard University. Let me briefly introduce our panelists. And since we're being live streamed, a reminder that the hashtag is WEF23. We can try to put some real information out into the world to make up for all the crazy.
So the craziest stuff that I do here, and so many people do, that doesn't agree with the official story. That's crazy. And it's clear and present dangerous, right? It's dangerous in a clear future and presently, right? So we should think about this. This guy was on a show that went after so-called conspiracy theorists, right? And the show bombed. It was horrible. It was a weekend show, so it isn't like they expected to get good ratings. And he, and that guy, Donnie, whatever his name is, the Irish guy that I do the Leprechaun with, and they had a whole team of people, and they talked a lot about QBs and the dangerous aspect of having social media allow people to express themselves freely, because CNN couldn't compete. CNN sucks. Nobody wants to watch it. And now that people were doing real news, it doesn't even have to be news. It just has to be more truthful, like people just voicing their opinions and expressing themselves was a threat to the system that is. And these guys control of the information. And they whined about it so much, and they put so much pressure on the social media platforms, which we know, that they start censoring us and changing their logarithms and search engines and things. So you would listen to this guy, or your results would give you this guy, as opposed to what you were actually searching for. And it still sucked, right? And so then they launched CNN Plus, which Brian Stelter was at the centerpiece of that, because he wanted to combat the disinformation on these, platforms, and they got rolled. It was a massive failure where they lost millions of dollars, and they closed it within a month. Within a month, they realized that nobody was watching them. And they're also on YouTube. They're also on Facebook. They're also on Twitter. I mean, they're everywhere on social media, and they can't compete because they suck, right? And the World Economic Forum, which should be about success and successful people, is bringing in this loser, this guy who got canceled, and he's, going to come in here and start going after the truth community again, which he always does. And the World Economic Forum is backing this instead of dealing with the essential problem, which is that they are dishonest and we don't trust them because of this dishonesty. It's not our fault that they're, liars, right? Instead of fixing their lying problem, they're bringing in this guy to talk about disrupting distrust, or, following that up with the clear and present danger of disinformation being put out by normal, hardworking folks that are being screwed by the system.
Sitting first with me, Vera Yoravan, the VP for Values and Transparency.
Okay, so you're a complete fraud because there's no values or transparency in the World Economic Forum.
For the European Commission. Oh. Next to her, Congressman Seth Moulton from the U.S. state of Massachusetts, the 6th District, Democratic Congressman. Moulton, welcome.
Good, Moulton's going to get it done.
Jeannie Burgo next to him, the president and CEO of Internews. Jeannie, welcome.
Oh, Internews. That sounds like it really sucks.
And A.G. Sulzberger, the chairman and publisher of the New York Times. Welcome.
Sulzberger, the New York Times is just floundering, and they're getting destroyed like CNN by the, social media giants.
I think we should start with you, AG, talk from the newsroom and the news publishing perspective, and then we'll work our way toward some of the political parts of the conversation. How does this discussion of disinformation relate to everything else happening here today in Davos?
Well, first, thanks for having me.
You're welcome. First, you might want to say, can I be transparent here? Because that's what we're going for. Yeah, I have a vested interest in clamping down on social media because nobody reads our thing anymore, right? Our paper is floundering and nobody, reads newspapers anymore. So I have I want to just say, let's get rid of the disinformation because I have a financial incentive to do so.
As part of this conversation, as you can imagine, this is something I really care deeply about. So I think if you look at this question of disinformation, I think it maps basically to every other major challenge that we are grappling with as a society, and particularly the most
disinformation is the foundation of the fall of America.
Existential among them. So disinformation and the broader set of misinformation, conspiracy, propaganda, clickbait,
all those things, conspiracy and propaganda.
The broader mix of bad information that's corrupting the information ecosystem. What it attacks is trust. And once you see trust decline, what you then see is societies start to fracture. And
the trust wasn't there before. The trust in the media wasn't there before social media and the so-called conspiracy theorists, right? I say this all the time. If you want these things to end, then stop conspiring. Stop being secretive. Be transparent. But they can't do that because the system would collapse. It's not their fault. You know, people are hammering the people who control the system. And I'm much more generous with my assessment because they're keeping a system, a deceptive system going that should have collapsed years ago. The divine forces should have made the system collapse years ago. I mean, there's divinity, there's truth in divinity that, contingency that makes all things that are lies and deceptions come to the forefront. Like you just can't hide them. And you can't hide them from yourself because people start believing their own lies, right? And so the divine system wants to make everything pristine and bring it to its highest level, right? There's an element inside of you, the divinity that's inside of you and all of us wants to rise up to the highest level and stop being, low life, egotistical pieces of crap, right? So some part of us is, working to be the best version of ourselves. And that means, the soul version, the pure expression of our souls. And so things that go against dishonesty, deceptions that go against the divine system there's a slow mechanism of purity that brings these things to the forefront. And any system that's based in deception eventually is going to collapse for that reason. Just like it's, even the good systems are going to collapse, right? But the systems that are willfully going against the divine system and are based in lies, like a debt-based economic system, has to collapse, right? Has to be purified. And because of that, they have to fight this thing tooth and nail, repeating the same lies over and over again, and get as many people to believe those lies to keep the system going. And they can't do that now, right? And it's not their fault because the people, it's not like I'm, saying they're good people or anything, but that's their job. Their job is to keep the lies going because the truth comes out, the system collapses. Our system is based in perception. You have to perceive money that is valueless, that is based in debt, has value. That all this debt that's being traded back and forth is worth something, including our currencies and all the rest of the things that have value. As soon as you realize it doesn't have any value, and people then go grab physical cash and realize that doesn't have value, it's monopoly money, we're just playing a game here. And it's based in our perception and our belief. And so when people have distrust, which they're scared about, the system is on the verge of collapsing, right? I mean, that's, once the truth comes out, the system can't keep on going because it's based in lies, right? It's a scam.
And so you see people fracture along tribal lines, and that immediately undermines pluralism. Mm-hmm. And the undermining of pluralism is probably the most dangerous thing that can happen to a democracy. So I think if you're spending this week thinking about,
the solution would be admit that you're liars. And if they did that, they would have to start telling the truth. And if they told the truth, the system would collapse, right? So this is, the predicament, because the truth is coming out and they can't control that. And they can't be the kind of people that people will trust. They can't be the institutions people will trust. And so this is where we are, right? That the system's going to collapse either by people finding out the truth and discovering the truth on their own, or, the system will just collapse from its own depravity, or they come out and be honest and tell the truth and the system collapses, right? This is why it's the apocalypse, because, we're screwed every direction in terms of our, the system we're 100% dependent on.
The health of democracies and democratic erosion, I think it's really important to work your way back up to where this starts.
And the term fake news and then disinformation, it was popularized 6 years ago at this point. Where are we today versus then?
What do you mean, where are we today versus then?
So this was a hot...
What do you mean, Brian? We're getting killed. What are you talking about? Brian, you're sitting here a canceled host. You went up against disinformation and conspiracy theorists and all these things, and now you're a canceled host who lost your show. That's where we are, Brian.
Hot, popular topic.
Yeah.
There was an awakening about it. The social networks felt pressure, but now where are we? And same question for Jeannie, but where are we today?
There was an awakening. See, they're making it sound like they're the underdogs. That this, conglomerate of ordinary people, many of them living in like projects and, trailer parks and, renting or whatever, poor people and, some people who are in the lowest levels of the economic system. And, and then middle class people and the rest, but no big players, like other than like say Elon Musk or something who's, dabbled, or Trump or whatever. But the real people who make up the truth movement are people who are, waking people up, so to speak, right? But he's saying there's an awakening to these, this disinformation being put out there. Like they're always trying to steal the essence of the truth community. They're trying to make it their own and be like the underdogs and be like the people who are waking people up, right? Let's listen to that again. That's incredible.
What do you mean, where are we today versus then?
So this was a hot, popular topic.
Yeah.
There was an awakening about it. The social networks felt pressure, but now where are we? And same question for Jeannie, but where are we today?
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's a great, and to be clear, actually, terms like fake news and enemies of the people have been popularized cyclically in society and in some of the most, repressive and dangerous moments, Nazi Germany, Stalin.
Dangerous moments. There's so much danger going on. Danger.
Stalinist Russia, right? So I think anytime we're hearing language like that applied to, a free press, or more broadly free expression, I think we should be really worried. Look, I think that there's no doubt that society seems to have at some level accepted how much the information ecosystem has been poisoned.
Yeah, by you, right? See, if you guys were telling the truth in the beginning and you guys were honest and transparent, of course, the system would have collapsed because of that. So we wouldn't even be having this conversation, right? The system can't afford honesty. Honesty is a luxury that this system that's based in deception can't have. But if they were, then this other thing wouldn't have started, right? If you didn't conspire, then there wouldn't be conspiracy theories. If people didn't conspire, then there wouldn't be conspiracy theories, right? And so it's a total lack of accountability. Like you're trying to remove something that you're saying that people are paranoid. And of course, there's a lot of crazy people. The truth community sucks. And, I've talked about this before. It's not a pure, the truth community it's contaminated as the mainstream news. And there's all this disinformation out there. Plus, you brought in people, people in the intelligence community that were, example, created the Q movement, the QBs. And that's, that's on you guys, right? You brought in all these people to go out there and put out disinformation, either corporate people or, people in the government. Take for some accountability and responsibility. Stop blaming the people who are, who have been lied to.
And I think it's going to require real sustained effort from the platforms, from political leaders, from business leaders.
What he's talking about is censorship and making the platforms get rid of anybody who doesn't agree with the official story. That's what, sustained effort. And that's just suppression. The more you do that, the more it incubates and grows. It's not going to get better.
And from consumers themselves to reject that.
Jeannie, how do you see this, especially thinking about it from different countries that Internews helps make sure the news is being produced in?
Yeah, I think sort of the traditional view of mis and disinformation, we often think of sort of the information warfare, and we're looking at the Ukraine crisis where it's been.
You mean InfoWars, right? Again, they just steal this stuff. Alex Jones is a shill and a disinformation agent, but they steal these things, right? CNN had there's this guy, Ben Swan, who's, whatever. He's a sort of a a local news kind of a person that started his own thing called Reality Check. And it was, a little bit truthful. You guys probably know who he is. And then CNN copied his bit and had their own show called Reality Check. They're literally stealing these words, right? She's saying it's an information war. It's a war you're going to lose unless you get rid of social media. And if you do, they'll find other ways. People will find other ways. If you get rid of it, it'll make it more real, right? You can't suppress it. There's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do other than martial law and make the dystopian world happen right now. And then, people will do whatever they do, right? Like I said, the system can't be saved. Like I say something different here than most people in the truth community. I'm saying the system is, doomed for the very reasons I've already said, and, it's obviously doomed. And so this system we're 100% dependent on, I'm glad everyone doesn't wake up, because everyone did wake up, the system would go. And that would be a good thing. Spiritually, it'd be the best thing for us. It'd be the best thing for our future generations. But for us, it'll suck, right? Because we're used to a certain level of lifestyle that's based in, not only deception, but abuse, right? Resources are being stolen from the very poor, people who are living in abject poverty, half the world. It's unbelievable poverty if you see the way people live in other countries. And that wealth is being given to countries like America, Europe, or the wealthy people in every country. And so it's not a fair system. It hurts people at the bottom. Half the people are just, miserable, and then just, you work your way up until you get to the very richest people who are miserable, just a lot of misery all along the, path, but no one can conceive of life without it.
Been devastating, and even looking at the arc of time, at the beginning of the Ukraine crisis in 2014, the Russian disinformation was trying to sow confusion in Ukraine, and now we see the Russian disinformation machine really sowing a single line inside of Russia for this continuation of the war. But it seemed very much like almost like a great power struggle that was happening. I think the big trend for us that we're seeing, and we work with news organizations in 100 countries around the world trying to support their work, because we believe in healthy information environments being so critical to solving the world's problems. And
yeah, then you wouldn't have this problem. The newspapers and the information's been around for a while, and everything's gotten worse. You guys have failed. You guys have failed epically, right?
a community's problems and a country's problems. So the big change that we've seen is really the insidiousness of the multiple levels and layers in which mis and disinformation is being used. I was just in the Philippines in September, and like literally every level of government, private business, the civil society, it's just everywhere.
See, politicians have learned to lie to people, right? And manipulate them and play to their emotions and make promises they don't deliver. And the corporations and news media have done the same. And then you have normal people, and then of course disinformation agents and all the layers of this thing that have used these same tools. And this is why you have a mess, right? Because now you just have more players instead of, a monopoly on lying, right? You now have a, multifarious groups of people all putting out information, and, they all can manipulate people to go one way or another based in that.
And so navigating it feels different than sort of when it was like just the big conversation about fake news. And it feels like it's everywhere. And so the solutions are going to be slightly more complicated.
But you'd agree with AG's perspective that at some level it's been accepted, a certain amount of this pollution.
I do agree with that, and I think we've always had pollution in the information environment, but it is really, really bad right now for sure. I also feel like there's at some level, when we turn to solutions, people are also getting used to navigating it a little bit better. Again, in the Philippines, here's this unbelievably complicated information environment, and yet people were able to find the information they needed. They knew where they trusted, and they were starting to navigate it. Interestingly,
well, in America, people don't watch the news. So if you're looking at the New York Times or CNN, the people who watch that stuff are the least capable, right? They're the most passive. They're the least energy people. They're the people that, are the most brain dead. They're the most hard group to activate. They're the people who are going to cower, They're just looking for the, powerful system to tell them what to do. They're the least, they're the most zombie-like, the most like dead inside, right? And so the people who are capable of being change agents, whether they're crazy, whether they fall for lies, whether they whatever, they still have some life force in them and, can be motivated to do something, right? And that's the problem with this, movement. And, the older generation is listening to the news and they, have very little, they're just all done, right? They're just, waiting to die.
Sort of differently. And so I'm a little bit rose-colored glasses sometimes. I'm accused of that. And in this case, I can see some glimmers of hope.
Good, you mentioned solutions. Congressman, can you give us the solutions?
There's no solution. Congressman, you're a politician. You must have some solutions.
No. I think it's really tough. And honestly, this is an issue that affects my job profoundly. I think it's gotten a lot worse in just the last few years. We have a lot of big problems that we have to solve in America. But you take a problem like immigration, where you need to have Democrats and Republicans come together, conservatives and liberals, to have comprehensive immigration reform, to do things that conservatives want, like securing the border, but do things that liberals want, like making sure we have a pathway to citizenship for the immigrants who come here. And if you can't agree on the basic facts, you can't agree on how many people are crossing the border, you can't agree on whether a wall makes sense or whether we should strengthen border security at the checkpoints, that's a simple fact that dictates where a lot of funding that Congress could spend on this problem actually goes. And if you can't have that honest conversation with your colleagues, it's a real problem. And I noticed in the...
Him saying it's hopeless is, why are they even doing this? Like, you've already lost because nobody's listening to you, right? Nobody looks at you guys for solutions. People are not looking at the World Economic Forum, which has gotten, obliterated by the truth community. There's people who want to be a part of the club and whatever it is, right? But most people have tuned you out. Like, they didn't know about you in the first place, and now your brand has been tainted. Pretty much everything that's official, your brand has been damaged by your own deception, right? By the deceptiveness of the system. And you can't tell people the truth. I mean, even most truthers can't tell people the truth because they have to pander to your individual weakness of not being able to handle that the system can't be saved. I mean, that's maybe, the difference of what I do here. I've reconciled that the system can't be saved and that it's bad for us. But, the older I get, the harder that is for me to navigate, right? Like in terms of being able to, survive that or live in any way that I would consider, acceptable in terms of what we're used to. Like all the people who are in middle class, upper middle class, even lower middle class, all the people in America that aren't homeless are used to a certain level of lifestyle. And that lifestyle is going to disappear. There's nothing anybody can do to stop that. Like, change is coming. And, the world's population is going to go on the decline. And then the system itself is going to be on the decline, which it already is, right? And everything's going to get not as good as it was before. Instead of getting better stuff, right? Like when I was a kid, we had a TV that you had to get up and turn the channel, right? You have to, physically get up and turn the channel, and you only had 3 or 4 channels. You had to sit through commercials. I had a black and white TV when I was a kid. We eventually got color. The thing was, so much smaller. I mean, it was basically the size of your computer screen, and people would sit around, huddle, and watch it, right? And now, of course, there's all this other stuff. The TVs are better than, the computers. Now you have a TV on your phone. You can watch stuff on your phone. You can watch it on, all these things. The level of technology and all the comforts that you have gotten better, right? Everything's gotten better. Stoves have gotten better. Things you cook with have gotten better, and just the ability. I mean, the whole internet thing is a whole thing, right? And your lifestyle, you just keep on getting new gadgets and better gadgets and new conveniences that you didn't have before. and people get weaker and weaker. They lose the ability to read a map because they have a computer on their phone that can tell them where to go and how to get there. And so people are hemorrhaging abilities and becoming more independent on their gadgets and things. And they're getting used to these things. Imagine a world without electricity, right? What if we didn't have electricity? What if we didn't have moving vehicles? I mean, that's how bad it can get in a short period of time. And that's going to happen. Nobody can stop that, obviously. That's why it's so they're trying to preserve something for themselves. That's how everyone is. Everyone's trying to, keep at least as much of their lifestyle as they can do. That's, what it comes down to.
Congress, a marked change after Donald Trump came to power and proved that lying works. He proved to...
Wait a minute. You're saying that politicians never learned to lie before Donald Trump? Right? You just said that Donald Trump proved that being a liar as a politician worked, that there was no other liars before that. I mean, even Richard Nixon, Richard Nixon and the whole, tricky dick. But you're saying Bill Clinton never lied, or you're saying George W. Bush never lied, or George Washington never lied, or whatever it is, right? Politicians and lying are synonymous. You just said, let's listen to that again.
And I noticed in the Congress a marked change after Donald Trump came to power and proved that lying works. He proved to especially a lot of his Republican colleagues that this is pretty good. And all these Republicans who disdain Donald Trump, and there are a lot of public examples, people like Lindsey Graham, who said the most demeaning things about Donald Trump and then jumped on his bandwagon. Part of jumping on his bandwagon was buying into this game that you could just lie.
Jojo Magoo had to apologize for plagiarizing people. Jojo Magoo was a career liar, as all politicians are. And for them to pin this on Trump like somehow, lying works all of a sudden. We used to tell the truth, and the truth was great, and we all told the truth as politicians. No politician ever lied. No politician made promises they couldn't keep. No politician covered up their scandals. They were just honest Abe. They were all honest. But then Donald Trump came in and said, hey, if you lie, it works. And we were like, whoa, well, it works. And the Republicans, the Democrats, of course, they were like, lying's bad. We'd never lie. Fetterman smash, right? But the Republicans, they said, hey, this lying does work. Let's try it.
And not only could you get away with it, but it might actually help your career.
When you're confronted by those lies, what do you do personally or professionally? What do you find are the appropriate responses?
You try to have a conversation. But I remember this instance. I mean, we were.
You mean mansplain, right? You mean politically mansplain and tell people how the official story, which has been exposed as being riddled with deception, is, the real thing, and that whatever you believe isn't. And you should just take your Soma, your Brave New World drug. It's called Soma in the book, The Brave New World, and just be happy. And listen to the official story and then knuckle under, right?
So you don't ignore it. You don't try to ignore the...
I try not to.
Okay.
I try not to. But I remember having a conversation with a conservative colleague from the southern part of the United States, and we were debating one of these issues. And I won't go into the details, and I don't remember every one of them, but he said something to me that just was blatantly untrue. And I said, well, that's not true. I mean, I read this in the news this morning. Right. And he said, well, where did you read it? And I said, well, it was in the New York Times. And so we just scoffed and said, well, then that's not.
Because the New York Times is one of the original pillars of disinformation, right?
Not true.
Let me talk to him.
Do you have thoughts about that dynamic, both in the U.S. and abroad? It's not necessarily new, but it's not getting better.
The fake news
distrust
dynamic?
Of any established brand, especially a brand like yours.
I mean, look, I think I think it's a different challenge domestically and internationally, right? So domestically, I think the most important thing that independent media organizations can do is to hold their ground and and hold on to their principles, right?
Oh, God, right? You guys are now claiming you have principles. Like, come on. This is, there's no sense of, and, they believe their lies, right? They believe their paradigm, what they've been doing. I mean, that's the problem. Maybe this guy doesn't, who knows? But the people who work there, they believe that they're reporting the truth, right? There's a tweet. Let me see if I have it here. So Twitter has been recommending this person, Erica Marsh. There's a Republican girl they're also recommending, right? I don't use my Twitter. Like I just, I used to post my YouTube videos there, but it really wasn't great to do that. And then they got rid of that. There was a way to do that directly from the YouTube video, but then they stopped doing that. So it became a hassle for me to cut and paste, and I just, and I don't tweet ever. But I put Twitter on my phone recently, and it was because my wife sends me Twitter stuff, and I can watch it on the phone. And so it was the beginning of the Elon Musk era, and they were kind of trying to identify my preferences, and I started to get notifications, right? And I'm getting these weird political notifications that aren't truther related. And since I'm not really using the app, it's just the notifications that I end up clicking on. And, I think they're trying to be central, and they're giving both far right and far left political, political fodder for people in the recommendations. So I'm getting these recommendations of people that I would never come into contact with normally, that I would never see. She's a proud Democrat, former field organizer to elect President Biden, volunteer for the Obama Foundation. Her pronouns are she, he, and she has this thing, the Erica Report. And this came in last night. Breaking, Kevin Morris, Hunter Biden's attorney, says that Hunter Biden is considering filing lawsuits against Rudy Giuliani, Fox News, and Eric Trump for defamation. Now, Hunter Biden clearly is somebody who's not a good person, not a well person. Like, let's say you want to be compassionate. He has a problem. He is a lifelong drug addict and crackhead who admitted coming in out of rehab 8 or 9 times, right? And he fathered a baby that he refused to take responsibility at first, and then he tried to withhold his financial documents because of his father running for president. And he supported a crack habit by selling access to the White House to his father as vice president and now as president. That's how he made his living. He was smoking crack and not going to work. They were paying him to smoke crack because he was giving access, right? And then there was the whole laptop thing. Now, those are all things, and, the covering up of the laptop, which handed Joe Biden, or, at least it stopped Joe Biden from losing the election, right? And you can say he didn't lose the election, whatever it is, but he would have certainly lost the election if the Hunter Biden story came out. But God knows, maybe it wouldn't, because it's so polarized that people don't believe stuff, right? Like they elected Fetterman, and maybe, who knows? Like maybe it wouldn't have done anything if Hunter Biden's story came out. But they still haven't made it a story. The New York Times hasn't reported on it, and neither has anybody else. But this young woman is basically championing Hunter Biden like he's some sort of a hero. So here are some of the comments. Awesome discovery. It's a beautiful process in lawsuits. Would love to see more text from the Biden's phone. Republicans crossed the line with Hunter Biden. The guy is not even politically unlike Trump's kids, but they beat him up every day, if not every hour, just like they did to voting machine companies. I think they really need to be sued at this point. He's going to need to prove he was defamed. What is his defense? How will he vindicate himself? Discovery is going to be great. Yeah, because he's going to have to say all the things that, they're going to ask him questions. They might countersue him, and he's going to be deposed, right? But she's making it sound like he's a good person, like he's somebody who, is a champion, and he should sue these evildoers. And this is, some of the crap that's out there. This tweet got 309,000 views. And most of the comments are, yeah, let's get Hunter Biden on the stand, right? Most of them are Republican commenters. This guy in the New York Times, they didn't cover that, right? They covered up the Hunter Biden story, which should have broke. And there should be stories every day about Hunter Biden and Jojo Magoo being senile. They elected a guy who was senile and a proven liar who had to apologize multiple times. I have another clip that somebody sent me, him making, this is him lying here.
Happy birthday, dear Valen. Happy birthday to you.
So he was singing, President Biden sings Happy Birthday to Martin Luther King's III's wife, Andrea Waters King. And he says, Happy birthday, dear Valen. Like,
Happy birthday, dear Valen. Happy birthday to you.
That's the guy you elected, right? You're not covering this. This guy, there's even something from Colbert now talking about one of his gaffes. The guy's senile. So this is Jojo Magoo just telling lies.
I think I probably have a much higher IQ than you do, I suspect. I went to law school on a full academic scholarship.
These things are not true. Plus, he's so narcissistic. This is the kind of thing they say they hate about Trump, right? This is Jojo Magoo just lying.
The only one in my class to have a full academic scholarship. In the first year in law school, I decided I didn't want to be in law school and ended up in the bottom two-thirds of my class, and then decided I wanted to stay, went back to law school, and in fact ended up in the top half of my class.
He's just brilliant. He's so smart. And he's just making stuff up, right?
Won the international moot court competition. I was the outstanding student in the political science department at the end of my year. I graduated with 3 degrees from undergraduate school and 165 credits, only need 123 credits, and I'd be delighted to sit down and compare my IQ to yours if you'd like, Frank.
If you'd like, Frank. This is him doing this when he was younger, and now he challenges people to push-up contests and call him fat. I mean, he's had mental decline, but he was always a liar and deceiver.
Let's say one thing. I think Biden now concedes he did not graduate in the top half of his law school class, that he does not have 3 degrees from college, and that he was not named outstanding political science student in college.
Newsweek says Biden actually went to school on a half scholarship, ended up near the bottom of his class, and won only 1 degree, not 3.
Joe Biden ranked 76th in a class of 85 at the University of Syracuse Law School. I mean, this guy comes off this whole thing as a flyweight.
Now Biden says Newsweek is right. His memory had failed him.
His memory had failed him, his IQ. His IQ, his ability to conceptualize things, right? This is the guy that they've pushed on all of us. A career liar. No one loves the guy, right? I mean, he's got very few real fans. The only thing that they had was the hatred for Trump, right? And, whatever way they could manipulate the system to create, what they've created. But for the New York Times to try to legitimize itself after not saying this guy is senile, that's what you should have said. That was your job as media. He's senile. This guy's senile. He can't be president. That's what you should have said. It was obvious. You brought experts on. It was easy to see the symptoms. The guy was, pooping in his Depends diapers, walking off stage, challenging people to fights. And, he literally said, let's step outside to a guy in Pennsylvania. And so you have no credibility. You have zero.
And so for us, that means treating, independence, and following the facts wherever they lead as a North Star, and when the facts.
What facts? Like, it's a fact that Jojo Magoo's son is a crackhead who got jobs he didn't deserve because he sold access. And Jojo Magoo is a career liar. And now he's senile and he can't even complete sentences, right? His memory's gone. His ability to make decisions is gone. And you guys are covering all that up. You guys are not following the facts. There are facts about Jojo Magoo. He isn't fit to be president. And the whole Democratic, all the candidates were horrible. Not one of them was really, and not in the sense of, the only one that you could say was a good candidate was Bernie. Because he had enthusiasm with his base, right? The way Trump did. Like, the Republican candidates were horrible. but Trump had enthusiasm. And they're all liars, right? But only Trump and Bernie were able to sell their lies. Only Trump and Bernie were able to create some enthusiasm of all the presidential candidates. They were the only ones who had passion behind them.
Lead somewhere ambiguous, it means conveying that ambiguity or the debate around it fairly and fully. So, I really do think that is the path, and I think there's a giant segment of America that wants that. Internationally, it's a more complicated picture, and it's why the anti-press rhetoric of a country that has been synonymous with upholding and defending a free press is so dangerous, is that most countries have far less of a tradition of tolerating a free press and free expression. You know this better than anyone. And so
there's no free press. You guys are working with the political parties. You guys have a monopoly. They have a monopoly on politics, and you have a monopoly on truth, and now the truth community has blown that up, right? For good or for bad, because it's all a mess, right? It's not like the truth community is a pillar of truth. It's just all a mess, right? Now it's just wide open. What used to be, confined to controllable news media and, candidates that were endorsed is now blown wide open.
So, this anti-press rhetoric, terms like fake news, were greedily gobbled up by autocratic regimes and aspiring autocratic regimes who then, passed laws that they claimed were banning fake news, but were actually banning an independent, the scrutiny that is provided by an independent press, the scrutiny and accountability. So I see the bigger challenge on the international stage.
International. Vera, do you see, what role do you see for government in this conversation? Your portfolio includes mis and disinformation, as well as digital privacy and security, and the relationship between consumers and TikTok, for example. So how do you see the role of government here?
Yeah, I will correct you, or not correct you, sorry, I will correct.
Do they not have hair products?
Please.
But
it's a session about accuracy.
I don't like to hear about consumers. I love consumers. Yeah, they are so close to my heart and stomach. But citizens, it's something else. You feel the difference. That's why we introduced Lex Specialis, special
Stelter and Jorvia.
Regulation for political advertising, stricter rules for selling politicians from selling the shoes or furniture. Yeah, so I started from the end what I wanted to speak about.
Good.
Of course,
All right, so I spent a lot of time on this. Why not have a truther up there? Why not have not a QB? This is what they would do. But if you're going to do this, why not have, if you want to build trust, like if you want to say we want to rebuild trust, why not have people up there that don't agree with the official system? And they aren't on the official system's dime, right? Like this person, what is she doing up there? Like, who is she? The World Economic Forum. I mean, this is supposed to be, this is an English speaking, you can do things in different languages because it's the world. But, you have someone from the New York Times and you have an American senator. Why not have somebody who's an American truther, right? And not someone like Alex Jones, not somebody who's a shill, but have somebody who could actually verbalize these things and have a calm discussion. And all the things that I've said here, not that I want to go, because I wouldn't, system can't be saved. Everything that I've said here would be, fodder for debate. And you would say, we want to establish trust. And so you would sit down with somebody and find out what their concerns are. And you would be able to alleviate those concerns with actual transparent answers, which they can't do. And so this is, it's just an exercise in failure. They're going to have to do whatever they're going to do, but they're not going with the will of the people. And it's a good thing they're not, because if they did, the system would collapse, right? That's the problem. Like, people don't want to acknowledge that the system should have collapsed years ago, and it's not. Let me show you the memes again here. I got a couple of memes from today's production.
The clear and present danger of disinformation.
Danger, Will Robinson. Danger. No, Will Robinson. Danger.
And I noticed in the Congress a marked change after Donald Trump came to power and proved that lying works.
So I just want to wrap this up, but I have one kind of central point here, which I, kind of alluded to before. But if you wanted to regain trust, right? They're coming out with these things now. This, what he said, Brian Stelter, was they had a previous session called Distrust Disruptors. So they've lost the trust of the people, right? Certainly in America, but worldwide. And that's the media, and it's the governments, and it's the official story. And so if you're trying to regain trust, the first thing you would have to do is to say, have I done anything untrustworthy? Have I done anything that would create distrust in the other party, the other person? If someone doesn't trust you, you can say, well, they just have trust issues, or they're broken, or whatever. But you also have to look at yourself and your organizations. Have we had an issue with lying? Right? And when they come out and say, Donald Trump proved that politicians lying works, like it never existed in Washington, D.C., this clown Moulton, who I never heard about before, but that was what his takeaway was, that, hey, Donald Trump just broke the code. He said lying works in politics. Right? Like how, and the stuff with the New York Times, you can't put this guy out there, Jojo Magoo, and claim that he's a competent, honest person. He's a liar and a snoozler and a groper, a lifelong politician. And, he droned kids, horrible human being. You didn't cover any of that. You didn't follow the facts. You didn't do anything that was newsworthy. I mean, in terms of, worth our looking into the New York Times, right? You allowed them to roll out the whole, COVID stuff and the vaccine, all these things, right? No pushback to any of it. When Jojo Magoo was failing in the debates, and he was clearly not up to the task mentally, you helped hide him away, right? So you did all these untrustworthy things. And there's two ways to lose trust. You can be dishonest, you can be deceitful, or you could have impaired judgment. You could be incompetent, right? You might be honest, but you're incompetent. You're truthful, but you're just wrong. And in a competitive business, and in what I do here, and so many other people do, we have to be someone that people can trust, right? That people can, say, I believe this person is who they say they are. Like that's what's expected in there's so many different options for you to watch different people in the so-called, whatever it is, truth community on the internet, that you want to be able to believe that the person says who they say they are, right? And the second is the person needs to be right. If they're wrong all the time, even if they're completely honest and transparent, then why would you listen to them? You're like, well, your perception, your ability to perceive is not accurate. And we saw this. They bring in these experts all the time, and the experts are wrong, right? All these pundits and people, they just don't get it. And so it's not just they are liars, but they're also incompetent. They're also on the wrong side of things. They don't really understand how to navigate reality. And their position here is that how do we regain trust in some manipulative way? Like what can we strategize? Because these people have been duped and are deceived by other people on the internet and, people like Trump. How do we fix that without changing anything that we're doing? How do we fix that without taking responsibility for any of it, right? And, they're coming in with this arrogant idea that they know more and they know exactly why people are leaving them and it isn't their fault at all. And you're just wrong and they're just right. That's been their whole thing all along. Like there's no sense of, oh, we have to change a little bit. Even doing it as there's no admission of that they've done anything that's not trustworthy. Like there's not even a hint at it. Even superficially, like some BS forced apology that, yeah, we've lost you because we suck, right? And what they've tried to do is pressure the social media companies and everybody else to stop, helping or making a platform for an alternative to their crap, right? Their crap that nobody wants to see. It's not entertaining. It's not honest. It's not accurate. It's got no real redeeming value other than to mock, right? Which I love doing. Like, I hope they keep going because I enjoy mocking them. But this idea that they would have, hey, what did we do to help create this problem, doesn't exist for them. It's not even maybe we did something. It's amazing, like they, that they would take that position. Now, I understand why people don't like me. I understand why they turn on me. I understand that I say things, not just here, but in life, right? I understand why, my kids have their own issues with me and, just from interacting with other members of my family. Like when I was dealing with my brother, I could see myself in him and how I didn't like it, right? Like I didn't like dealing with, traits and things that I do in somebody else. Like I don't like to be around my family. And, therefore, I understand how people don't like to be around me or don't, like whatever I have, right, in terms of my personality characteristics. And a lot of those things I had to work on and change just, not just for myself, but for other people. You have to be introspective. And, in a competitive capitalist system, it's a competition, right? You're competing for eyeballs. You're competing for views, right? You're competing for, it's not eyeballs, a stupid saying. You're competing for people's consciousness to listen to you and to, get value out of your thoughts and your interpretation of things and your whatever it is, right? And no matter who it is, if you're not competing well, if there's no audience for you, if there's nobody that gets you or sees it, all right, you might be brilliant, you might be so far ahead of everybody, but chances of that are really slim. And certainly not with these guys, right? And so they are losing the battle. Nobody wants to, they're going out of business. They can't compete. The news media and, the politicians to some extent. The politicians have a monopoly, but they've lost faith and trust. And the way to regain it would be first to take some responsibility for it and then bring reasonable people on and have a discussion where you don't say things like Donald Trump showed everybody politicians can lie and it works, and not have somebody call that guy on the stupidity of what he just said, right? It's amazing. But they just keep on doing it. Anyways, Fetterman smash. I got a video of him and his wife talking about how they met. So I'm going to do something on that, probably here, but maybe on my other channel, depending on how much stuff I have to get to. And I'm going to do another update about the stuff I was talking about yesterday on my channel, because people raised, good questions or made some points and things. I want to address all that. And just clarify things that I should have said in the original, whatever it was. Anyways, only spirituality will save this world. It's Paul Romano, definitely reporting from the Apocalypse and the Ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.